his Deputy Security Chief Superintendent of Police, National Security Department. They will take turn to speak before taking questions from the reporters. Secretary, please.
Good morning, everyone. The Hong Kong SAR government today, in relation to those who have absconded overseas and have continued with activities endangering national security, we will take further actions. First of all, I'd like to say that I have exercised the power conferred by the Safeguarding National Security Ordinance to specified by government notice that those absconders who have absconded in July and in December, certain measures will be taken against them. They are Hui Chi Fung, Kwok Fung Yi, Yuen Kung Yi, Kwok Wing Han, Kevin Yam, Hui Wing Ting, and Joey Siu. These elements that endanger national security after they have absconded overseas continue to engage in activities that undermine national security. They make use of different platforms to instigate activities that are cessation in nature and try to subvert against the central people's government. They have made publications and articles. They have appealed to overseas political figures and officials to impose a sanction and blockade against SAR government officials as well as prosecutors. So one of the absconders specified, Hui Chi Fung, colluded with overseas political figures to defraud the courts of Hong Kong, so the court allowed him to leave Hong Kong, and he has benefited from certain activities. On the platform, he received funds and benefited from the funds. The Department of Justice will, under Section 43 of the Safeguarding National Security, Schedule 3, Section 9, confiscate his crime proceeds. The proceedings have started. Today, we have published a notice of a warrant for arrest. The DOJ will make an application for the confiscation. The crime proceeds will be confiscated. He will be prevented from using these proceeds to continue to engage in activities endangering national security. Some of the measures specified apply to some of the individuals. That includes prohibition against making available funds, etc., or dealing with funds, etc. That means no funding should be made available to these people. The second one is prohibition against certain activities in connection with immovable property. That means you can't make available properties for lease to them or to enter a tenancy agreement from them. 3, prohibition in connection with joint ventures or partnerships with relevant absconders. That means you can't enter a joint partnership or invest in a joint venture or partnership with these people. The fourth one is to cancel their Hong Kong SAR passports. Some measures apply to certain individuals. That includes suspension of qualification to practice. That applies to Mr. Kevin Yam and Kwok Wing Han. The measure of a temporary removal from office of director applies to Yuen Kung Yi in relation to 7 companies. So the specification of absconders and specification of measures will be set out in the government notice. The purpose of these measures is to deter, prevent, and the acts conducted by these absconders. We want to deal them a heavy blow and want to get them to come back to Hong Kong to face the consequence of the law. I would like to say that save and accept under the authority of a license granted by the Secretary for Security, any person making available any funds on online platforms or deal with their funds, make available immovable properties or lease properties from these absconders, enter a joint venture or partnership or any company with these absconders, or provide funding or invest in these companies is an offense. The person will be liable on conviction to imprisonment for 7 years. The police will take strict law enforcement action. I appeal to the public not to break the law. Please don't engage in any pecuniary or financial dealings with these people. The National Security Department of the police put all these people on the wanted list. I will now give the floor to the police. First, we'll hear from Mr. Kan Kai-yan, Deputy Commissioner. Afterwards, Mr. Lee Kwai-wah, Chief Superintendent, will speak. They will give you details of the measures. Thank you. We have put 13 people on the wanted list in 2023. This time round, we announced another list of absconders. The wanted list include 6 people who have gone overseas. They are suspected to have contravened laws relating to safeguarding national security. We have applied for warrants of arrest from the court. The details of the offences suspected to have been committed by these 6 people are different, but the common element is that they have betrayed national security in Hong Kong, they have absconded overseas, and continue to engage in activities that endanger our national security and the interests of Hong Kong. This is the list of wanted persons. First, female, Lau Ka Men. Male, Chung Hon Lam. 3. Male, Chung Kim Wah. Male, Ho Leung Mao. Male, Chen King Kei. Female, Chang Hei Ching. We are the department that enforces the law in relation to safeguarding national security. We will bring these people to face the consequences of the law. So they are put on the warrant of the wanted list, and warrants of arrest will be applied for. We will cut their funding. We want to effectively prevent and stop anyone from subsidizing these people to enable them to continue to engage in activities endangering national security. These offences are very serious. These activities and deeds can cause dire consequences. Under Section 37 of the National Security Law applies to places outside the Hong Kong SAR and on permanent residents of the Hong Kong SAR, corporations and entities incorporated in Hong Kong. So the police of Hong Kong have the responsibility to bring these people to justice. Under Section 3 of the National Security Law, if offenders surrender and cease from engaging in these offences, if they provide important intelligence for detection of other crimes, the penalty may be lessened. So we appeal to these people to cherish the chance to come back to Hong Kong, to surrender. I would like to point out that safeguarding national security is the duty and the common obligation of all people in Hong Kong. Anyone in any form, including making use of online platforms, assist, incite, or fund any activities that endanger national security, it is a crime. We will continue to investigate into anyone who are in Hong Kong or outside Hong Kong, as well as their collaborators, those who fund them. We will also investigate the source of these funding to see if there are anyone else who have engaged in activities that endanger national security. We will strictly enforce the law. We appeal to the public not to break the law. As I said, we will take strict enforcement action. We appeal to the public that if you have any information about people outside Hong Kong or anyone who engage in activities endangering national security, you can make use of our hotline to report to us. I will now hand the floor over to Mr. Lee Kwai-wah for further details of these 6 people on the wanted list.
Thank you. These 6 people, they share similar backgrounds. They have left Hong Kong. They blatantly organized or joined some organizations overseas to endanger national security. They violated Section 21 of the National Security Law, as well as Section 22 and Section 29 in relation to colluding with foreign forces to endanger national security. I will tell you about their crimes one by one. The first one is a 29-year-old female, Miss Lau Ka-men. She allegedly violated Sections 21 and 29 of the National Security Law, which include colluding with foreign forces to endanger national security. He committed the offenses between October 2021 and May 2024. Ms. Lau, in the capacity as a member of a democratic organization, published articles and gave talks as well as produced videos online to advocate for separatism. She also talked to overseas officials as well as politicians and called for sanctions and blockades as well as hostile activities against the PRC as well as Hong Kong SAR. He asked for sanctions against government officials of the Hong Kong SAR, and she also asked to cancel some of the powers of overseas ETOs. The second person is a male called Ms. Chung Han Lam. He's aged 23 and he violated Sections 21 and 29 of the National Security Law. He committed the offense between December 2023 and May 2024. This male earlier, because of secession as well as money laundering, in November 2021 was sentenced to 43 months of imprisonment. In June 2023, after he had completed the jail terms, he had to comply with a supervision order of the CSD, but he defrauded CSD officers and said he had to go overseas for traveling, but he never returned. So he violated the supervision order and has been a wanted person on the list of the CSD. He has been through different platforms and different forms, has set up an organization that advocated Hong Kong independence. He produced articles online to encourage Hong Kong independence. He also asked overseas organizations to impose sanctions as well as blockades against the PRC. He also called for hostile activities against China. The third person is Chong Kim-hwa, and he is aged 64. He violated sections 21 as well as 29 of the national security law. It is said that this person, from May 2024 as well as June 2024, through different platforms, has been advocating for Hong Kong independence. Between December 2020 as well as November 2023, he asked different countries to impose sanctions, blockades, as well as hostile activities against the Hong Kong SAR as well as the PRC. This includes a joint petition to sanction judges in Hong Kong as well as prosecutors in Hong Kong. He also asked overseas organizations to cancel the power as well as close the overseas ETOs of Hong Kong. The fourth person is Mr. Ho Leung Mao, aged 69. He committed incitation of secession. From July 2022 onwards, he has been together with other people, set up an organization called Hong Kong Parliament. The function of this organization is that through an election, they would organize a universal suffrage to determine the future of Hong Kong. This is to overthrow the executive authorities of Hong Kong. Mr. Chang King-kei, aged 62, he allegedly violated sections 21 and 29 of the national security law. This person, from July 2020 to June 2024, on social media platforms, has been operating Hong Konger stations. Through this channel, he has produced a number of videos to incite secession. Also, on different platforms, he has produced videos and he gave talks to encourage Hong Kong independence. In the meantime, he repeatedly, on different platforms and through different forms, asked overseas organizations to impose sanctions against government officials in Hong Kong. He also asked for sanctions against government officials taking part in the promulgation of national security law. The last one is Chang Hei-ching. He violated sections 21 and 29 of the national security law. This person, from August 2022 to November 2024, in the capacity of a member of a fund, gave talks as well as produced videos and articles on online platforms to advocate for Hong Kong independence. In the meantime, he also asked overseas officials as well as politicians to impose sanctions, blockades, as well as hold hostile activities against the PRC and Hong Kong SAR. This includes imposing sanctions against central government officials and SAR officials, and also stage malicious acts against financial activities in Hong Kong. These are serious crimes, and the Hong Kong police force attaches great importance to these crimes. We issue a bounty of $1 million to each of these persons. We appeal to all members of the public to provide any information about these people.
Lastly, I would like to conclude that I would like the public to know that the government realizes the necessity to combat these crime and the activities, and we're determined. These people have absconded to overseas places, and they continue to engage in activities that endanger national security, and they collude with foreign figures. I would also like to emphasize that anyone who endangers national security should not think that they will be absolved of the law and will not be caught because they are overseas. We will vigorously implement the law to bring those who have committed a crime to justice. I appeal to the public not to break the law. they should avoid any financial dealings with absconders. Now questions from reporters. Please raise your hand. Don't ask more than 2 questions. The gentleman in white at the back from now. First, regarding Hui Chi-feng and the other 6 people, you have taken measures. We understand that similar measures have been imposed against people such as Nathan Law and the 5 others. Now there are similar measures. What do you think these measures will achieve? I would like to know that in relation to the 6 wanted persons, has the government frozen any of their assets? I will answer your first questions. In relation to the wanted persons, I'll defer to Mr. Kan. We have given sufficient time for people who have absconded to come back, but they have ignored our appeal. They continue to engage in activities that endanger national security. That's why we need to take action to combat, prevent, and deal with these activities. The activities engaged by these people cause disruption in Hong Kong society in 2020, and a lot of youngsters, because of their action, ended up in jail. I'm sure that they will not have any good night's sleep if they have any conscience. We take measures such as cancelling their passport. We think that these measures are very effective. These people may think that they will be given identities by overseas politicians, but when their use is exhausted, then they will lose their identity. Pompeo is best at lying. So if they lose their use, then these people will lose their identity. Without a passport, then they will not be able to travel. There are measures relating to the cancellation of professional status. I understand that in some overseas jurisdictions, because of the certificate to practice in Hong Kong, they are given a similar right to practice in these places. If we cancel the ability to practice or their qualification to practice, then they will lose a similar qualification overseas. We've also taken measures to cut their funding. Anyone who provide funding or engage in any pecuniary funding with them is a crime. We think that these measures are very effective. I now defer to Mr. Kan. The question was about whether the assets of the 6 people will be frozen. As I said, we will take every measure to tackle these absconders. Measures include cutting their funding, so we will freeze their accounts. We believe that by doing so, they will lose the source of funding. I would like to tell the public that if you use any means, including online platforms, or by any means to subsidize or fund these absconders, so they continue to engage in activities and endangering national security, is an offense. So please do not engage in any pecuniary dealings with these people. If you have information about these people or the activities they engage in, please contact the National Security Department. Next, the lady over there in red. I'm from Cable. Hui Chi-feng and the others have already settled overseas. Have you asked overseas governments not to recognize their Hong Kong passports? Do you think that cancellation of passports and imposing restrictions on their bank accounts, how effective do you think they are? In June, there was the first batch of specification of absconders. Similar measures were imposed. Has anyone broken the law in relation to that? Say, for example, providing funds? And previously, there was mentioned that making payment through Patreon is an offense. Can I ask about progress of your investigations? Have you sought further information from the service providers? I will answer questions in relation to the first batch of absconders specified. In relation to making available fundings, at this moment we have not made any arrests or initiated any prosecution actions. We do think that these measures are effective, very effective. Well, if your passport is cancelled, maybe you have an identity given by someone, but once your use is exhausted, the identity will be taken away. Cutting the funding or the source of funding to absconders is very effective. They will be unable to defraud others to fund them in their activities that endanger national security. Next question. The gentleman on the far right. I'm from Mingpao. Couple of questions. So, the wanted list and the specifications, how come it's taken 9 months after the passage of the ordinance before you take any actions? What about multinational banks? If they have dealt with funds of these people, will the branch in Hong Kong be affected? The people on the wanted list, say Chung Kim Wah, in relation to the articles, he mainly just reposted or quoted other news articles. So can you give us more information about his appeals or what he advocated for? Or is it simply because he has reposted or quoted some news articles? The second question is, well, why 9 months, and has Nathan Law been affected? We specified a list of absconders. We've taken a basket of factors into account. Say, for example, whether there is sufficient time given for these people to come back to Hong Kong to surrender. We also consider the details and gravity of the offences, whether they continue to engage in activities endangering national security after they have absconded. What is the extent of the risk of these activities? We make it public that these people are absconders. We will consider whether the specification will cut their source of funding. We also need to consider public interests. So we take into account a basket of factors before we decide when we put them on the wanted list, when we make these specifications. You mentioned about whether Nathan Law is affected. I think you'll have to ask him. From our observation, we have cut off his source of funding. Previously, he made use of different means, say online means, to engage in crowdfunding. Now, people know that he is a specified absconder. Anyone who handles funds or make available funds to him commits a crime. So he will be seriously impacted. You mentioned about banks. Banks in Hong Kong will have to abide by the laws of Hong Kong. If, according to the laws of Hong Kong and the specification, making available and dealing with funds is not allowed, whether you're a person or an organization, you will have to abide by the law. And in relation to the person named Chung, I'll defer to my colleague.
Thank you for the question. I believe you may have looked at their social media platforms or accounts. I can tell you that they have committed offenses of inciting secession We do see that there are messages about this on their platforms. They posted these messages or forwarded posts about this. In relation to colluding with foreign forces to endanger national security, there are more obvious evidences. For example, they asked for signed petition to sanction judges in Hong Kong who have dealt with national security cases. These are evidence about the offences they committed. Mr. Chung, if he thinks that he did not commit any of these offences, he should return to Hong Kong and assist our investigations. The lady at the front, dressed in black.
South China Morning Post. Regarding an earlier round of passport cancellation and other similar prohibitions in June, how much funding has the government managed to stop, and are there any further persons who have provided or handled funding for these people under investigation by Hong Kong authorities now? And also regarding the first round in June, were there anyone found violating prohibitions like leasing properties in Hong Kong? For Ted Hui, you've mentioned that the police will seize funding from him. How much does the police plan to seize from him? Is there any ballpark figure at the moment? Thank you.
Sorry, regarding the funding issues, actually we are processing with the confiscation of the crime proceeds against Hui Chi-fung, and the amount it's around $800,000 that we are going to. We have already initiated the process to confiscate. As you can see on that this morning, in accordance with the law, and we have put up advertisement in one Chinese and one English newspaper, and this is the first step. And our follow-up steps will be, we're going to apply to the court of first instance for the confiscations. And sorry, passport, what do you mean?
The last round of similar prohibitions in June, like how much funding has been seized? Anyone violating the prohibition?
For the time being, we haven't arrested and prosecuted anyone in violating of the provision of the fundings to them. Thank you.
How much funding is seized from the...
For Ted Hui, just repeat, it's about over 800,000 that we are going to confiscate.
好，咁下一位最後。
The reporter in the last row. I'm from Hong Kong 01. Mr. Kevin Yam said he did not have a Hong Kong passport, and he also did not renew his qualification as a lawyer. Would these measures be effective on him? Also, you may want to confiscate the funds, but what if the funds are overseas? First, on whether someone has applied for a Hong Kong passport or someone is trying or is eligible for a Hong Kong passport, these are two different matters. Some people, they may want to apply for a Hong Kong passport, but they aren't eligible. Also, you may want to register for a certain qualification, but you won't be able to do that under this measure because we have already cancelled the qualification. Your other question is about confiscation of funds. We do not have the extraterritorial jurisdiction on this. However, you may violate the law if you provide funds to these people. We'll take the last question. I'm from Channel C. Good morning. You are limiting the financial activities on 7 people. You also mentioned 6 people in this new batch. These people have online activities. They ask for fundings. Have you talked to companies like YouTube and asked them not to help these people to receive funds? Also, you mentioned about Nathan Law. You asked us to ask him whether these measures would have any impact on him. For the journalism sector, if we interview these 13 people and we publish articles about these 13 people, will we break the law, and is the freedom of press still protected under the basic law? You asked about online channels, what you do and talk about on online platforms, we will investigate them. As mentioned, some people disseminate messages about endangering national security on online platforms. Anyone through these organizations provide funds or handle funds in Hong Kong, they may break the law. Each crime or offense may be different. I appeal to you all not to defy the law. If you know that this is breaking the law and you still commit the relevant acts, and we've got evidence about this, we will definitely prosecute or make arrests. Anyone has the right to interview other people. However, this is not subject to absolute freedom. There is certain limitation. About the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, as well as other international covenants, freedom of press is protected under these covenants. However, you must not endanger national security or affect others. This is quite clear. Thank you. This is the end of the press conference. Afterwards, on the screen, we will issue the notice about the bounty. Thank you.